All right, everyone. Welcome once again. This is the Face of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka. I'm excited today because we're going to be talking to Angela Thurman today from Thurman Co. Or, yes, Thurman Co., excuse me, about implementing lean business strategies. And I'm going to tell you, Angela, I am excited because you are an expert, a guru. You've done some of the coolest things in your life that so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Damon. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, Angela, as we always like to do on the Faces of Business, I would like you to start back when you were getting ready to go to school and tell us your journey through school and kind of catch us up to how you got to what you're doing today.
Okay. So, I grew up in Northwest Arkansas, the extreme northwest corner of Arkansas, home of companies like Walmart, JB Hunt, Simmons
Mm.
Industries, Tyson's, some names you might be familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And and I ended up going to school at a very small private Christian university in my hometown. And I was very, very lucky in that my professors, most of them, were men that I had known from childhood
I was going to say,
because I went to school with their children. I went to church with these people.
yeah.
And early on, even in high school, um, they supported me. They recognized my natural talent for math and science and so forth, and they encouraged me. And one of them even gave me a subscription to Woman Engineer magazine while I was still in high school.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they encouraged me to pursue a career in engineering, and that's what I did. So, yeah, I was the fourth woman to graduate with an engineering degree from my university,
Wow.
and the only woman in my graduating class, and one of six electrical engineers to graduate from this very small school. Which
Yes.
meant that I had a lot of attention, um, direct one to one instruction from my
Mm-hmm.
instructors, and just had a great time while I was at school.
That really, when you said, I didn't realize until today that you went to your college in your hometown, and
Mhm.
knowing those teachers and professors from a young age and having those influences, that really had to be powerful because most kids, relatively no kids, are going to have that kind of influence in their life from an early age saying, listen, you need to do this and go, you need to be an engineer.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's
Yeah,
so awesome.
it goes even further because the professor that gave me the subscription to Woman Engineer magazine, um, the summer between my junior and senior years, he and his wife took me and a couple of other students from our school to Ecuador. And we worked at a missionary radio station, a shortwave radio station in
Mhm.
the Andes Mountains. And so for 6 weeks, there I was in this beautiful, beautiful environment at a live working shortwave radio station. And I
Yes.
learned so much hands on
Yeah.
stuff from the engineers who worked at the radio station. Things like I had to high pot all the capacitors that were in the bodega the first week I was there
Mhm.
to make sure that they were still working. And this is 1940s technologies. These are vacuum tube capacitors.
Yes.
And I'm like, I hope it doesn't blow up.
Yes.
And then one day I was given the assignment to build from scratch a rectifier that had to go into the transmitter later that day. And
To keep it going.
to keep it going.
Oh my.
And so I had to, first of all, design the rectifier and then build it. So here I am soldering together,
Yes.
using real world skills, right? Soldering
Yeah.
these resistors and capacitors together to build a rectifier, and then I had to install it. And while I was installing it, they had to bring the power up on this transmitter, and I'm inside of this thing,
Yes.
and it's going live with 220 volts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it starts humming up and warming up, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
like, we're gonna go live in 20 minutes, you need to get out of there. So
Yeah.
I had to lay down in a cable trough and shimmy down on my back while this is all live,
Oh, my.
high voltage
Yeah.
around me.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't let the workers' compensation people see that.
But because of that experience, I came away with a project for the missionaries to build them a switching power supply, and that became my senior design project.
Oh, very
And
cool.
then because of that experience, my senior design project of being a switching power supply, that directly led to NASA wanting to interview me for the power management and distribution branch for the space station. And that's how
Yeah.
I got my first job.
That is such an awesome story. I knew that you worked at done stuff for designed the power stuff for the space station, but I didn't recognize all the way back from being in college and doing that in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So as you're doing that now, you're you're pretty humble, and it's awesome part about you. Um, but you've done some pretty incredible things. I
A
mean,
lot
let's
of a
talk.
lot of fun things. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun things. So let's talk about when you've mentioned this before, but you did something that basically changed the way that data was handled on something in the Georgia. Explain that project that you did there with the
I'm sorry.
you did something you had mentioned before when you were working for the phone company, T-Mobile and
Oh,
Sprint at the time. What did you do there? Because that was mind blowing what you were working on there. I can
oh,
see I can't even explain it, but when I hear it, I go, oh my goodness.
so I was working on my master's degree, which is in telecommunications management.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was working for a company called Williams Communications
Okay, for
in
Williams.
Tulsa,
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Sorry.
So my degree is from Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And so what I did was to design a fiber optic network that encircled Atlanta and connected Turner Field, CNN, the CDC, the Up South Teleport, which is a satellite teleport, and several other key customers um, with a fiber optic network, and then back to our point of presence in Atlanta. So imagine that the Braves are playing a baseball game. This is how the signal, the video, the
Mm-hmm.
broadcast signal
Mm-hmm.
gets from the Braves to TBS and then backhauled to be broadcast across all affiliates and everything.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I negotiated the contracts for the fiber leases and brought all the parties to the table, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a metro access network. And then, and so that was my capstone project
Mm-hmm.
for my master's degree, my thesis project, basically. And then now that's a commonplace
Yeah.
tool for
Yeah.
serving large metropolitan areas. Yes.
Yeah, it's so cool. So cool that you're a part. I mean, that's just such a groundbreaking thing when you see how data is so important to us every
Mhm.
day now,
Mhm.
and how it gets more and more.
Yes.
And I actually Saturday, believe it or not, I thought about this project again, because I have a friend of mine who is I don't even know what you'd call him. He teaches people how to use network analyzers, all different kinds,
Yes.
fiber, Ethernet, all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But he does it globally. He used to travel everywhere. Now he does it virtually, but he has classes. I mean, they just go, right. But he was telling me about the fact that these these transportation projects, like we're doing one up here, is called the light rail system that's going to run north
Mhm.
and south in Seattle, east and west. And he's saying what these transportation projects are doing, and these tunneling projects that you see, they've got these huge, they've got areas for obviously cables to go through them. And he said the thing that was really interesting is that there's so many people now that need these private data networks that they're leasing either the cable, that's all the fiber optics that are all in there, or bigger corporations are putting their own through these access ways, because they go right through the middle of the cities or right to the big places that they want them to go.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about the fact of how for here in the light rail system, how much of that is actually going on now, and how he is training people that are doing it and doing the data analysis and making sure it's all working right. But I thought about your project because wow, is has that exploded?
Yes.
It took me a
Yeah.
long time to get there, but I was on Saturday. I was like, wow, I remember Angela talking about this, and then I hear how this is going, because yeah. Anyway, it's just like you think about the IoT and everything, how much more data we move every single minute of every single
Mhm.
day than we did
Mhm.
before. So
Mhm.
crazy. Did you ever think that when you were doing that, that this could be something, this is really going to be something crazy?
No, it seemed like a one-off, it didn't really seem like
Yeah.
it was gonna be that big.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but back in the day, we used to negotiate lease rights, roof to put, microwave stations on the roofs of buildings,
Hmm.
and cable rights to go in, elevator shafts and things like that.
Yeah. So this was like taking it to another level because of
Oh,
the data
yeah.
capacity. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same as Mike Panaki is the guy's name I was talking to. And Mike was talking about how much the data needs have changed, like you said, for the Braves field or somebody like that, because of the amount of not just the amount of television data going into 4K and the things like they've done there, but he said amount of cell phone data that's moving back and forth and has to get in and out of those places. He said the information movement is just went through the roof too.
Yeah.
So so interesting. Well, we're not here to talk about that, but I just thought that is such a cool thing that you've done. And then let on the space station too. I can't. I see you're the only person I know who's done anything on the space station. So I got
Oh,
to hear about it again, what you did, because I don't know many famous people. So
I'm not famous.
in my mind,
Oh, well, I do have a paper on my LinkedIn profile that I wrote at that time.
okay,
So if you want to know about load
yeah,
converters,
yeah,
you can find
very
all
cool.
all all about load converters on my on
Very.
my LinkedIn profile.
I'll quit goofing around here because we came to talk about implementing lean business strategies, and we got to talk about a couple other things. Now, you're pretty active in women in manufacturing. They're in Houston, correct?
Yeah, so I'm the um, membership director and the treasurer for the Texas chapter of Women in Manufacturing. And we're
Awesome.
getting ready to celebrate our third chapter versary. And so
Nice.
it's pretty exciting for us. We have about 1,000 Texas resident members, which is really,
Nice.
really cool for one of the bigger chapters. Obviously, Texas is a great big state.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have several hundred affiliate members. So, members of women in manufacturing that have chosen to affiliate with Texas to stay current with what our chapter is doing, even though they reside in other states.
Awesome. Awesome. And before we got on, you were talking about what's happening in manufacturing in Texas and women in manufacturing in Texas. Talk about that a
Mhm.
little bit.
Well, we try to stay current with all the trends in manufacturing. And Texas right now is just exploding. We have so many new manufacturers that are relocating to Texas or adding new factories in Texas. Obviously, we've got a lot of automotive that takes
Mm-hmm.
place in Texas. We've got, Tesla, GM, Toyota, Kia here. And then petrochemical is huge. We've
Oh
got
yeah.
Dow and BASF right here in Houston. And then, of course, oil and gas is everybody knows about oil and gas in
Yeah.
Houston
Yeah.
and throughout Texas. But then something that a lot of people don't really realize is that Texas is also a huge hub of the semiconductor industry. So we have one field of semiconductor companies in North Texas, like from Denton or Sherman south into Dallas, and then another hub in Austin. So we've got companies that you might be familiar with, like Texas Instruments. Pretty much
Mm-hmm.
everyone's heard of them. But we've
Yeah.
also got On Semiconductor, 26, NXP, um, and many,
Wow.
many other semiconductor companies and the companies that support them throughout Texas. And
Mm-hmm.
then with the passage of the CHIPS Act, uh, other companies are coming to Texas. I think Global Wafer has committed to build a big, big factory, a new clean
Yeah.
semiconductor manufacturing company here in Texas as well.
Yeah, because those aren't. I mean, that's not a $50 investment. I mean, you're going to
No,
put up a chip factory. It's some serious zeros behind them.
it is. It is.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
cool.
tremendous growth for our economy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what are you excited about as you think of women in manufacturing overall right now?
I think the growth in smart manufacturing and the new opportunities that brings, particularly for women in manufacturing, because we see the growth of new areas that are no longer those dangerous, dirty jobs that you traditionally associate with manufacturing. But these are
Hmm.
really cool, interesting jobs that pay well and that, anyone would be interested in.
Hmm.
And they're available here in Texas.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool, and that's one of the things that I always love when I see people like yourself that are involved in like women in manufacturing or just
Mhm.
anything. I mean, manufacturing extension partnerships, anything, because
Yes. Yes.
everybody looks that hasn't been in manufacturing, that doesn't understand manufacturing. When they say manufacturing, they think of the Ford plant or something like the black and white pictures of an old steel mill or something like that.
Yeah.
And the amount of technology, the amount of diversified skill sets it takes to run manufacturing now, everything from computer programmers to accountants to I don't know what, just
Hmm.
IT. We were talking about just IT and
Yeah.
data analyzers. Just so much stuff that goes into it now. That yes, there are people making products, but there's a whole host of opportunities around the outside of that.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
maybe your skills are in marketing. Well, manufacturing needs marketing. Or
Yes.
your skill is in contracts. Well, manufacturing needs leads legal analysts and contracts analysts.
Yeah.
There's no matter what you do, there is a role for you in manufacturing.
That is the case, and I love it when we get to talk about that because there are well, and you see it. You see young children, younger people today might go to college and not think of manufacturing, and they could be out and they could be in recruiting, they could be want to be in marketing, they could be in computers, it could be in engineering. It does, and they go, oh, or even computer programming, and they go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's like I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and they don't consider it. And or even people that want to go into the trades, right? Go into
Yes.
a trades out of work, be welding or whatever it is
CNC
that they want.
mills.
What's that?
CNC mills.
Yeah, CNC machining, and there's so much to do, and that it's sad to see someone graduate from high school or college and not find the kind of opportunity they want because they didn't understand about manufacturing and understand that, listen, the entry level wages in manufacturing now are so high compared to and I could walk out with a high school degree, go into manufacturing if I don't want to go to college, and work in really good roles and learn and work my way up and make a wonderful life for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that our children need to understand, younger people need to understand, and people that are looking for a new career opportunity, honestly,
Yes.
because it's manufacturers now. Let's talk about that. If you're out here in Silicon Valley, Southern California, and Meta just said they're going to lay off another 10,000 people globally, I mean, manufacturing is on the other side of this going, hey, we can't hire enough people. I don't care what you do. We can't hire enough people,
Uh-huh.
So there are opportunities out there for people that want to widen their scope and potentially look at a new industry.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So you do some speaking for them too, don't you? Women in manufacturing conferences and stuff.
Yeah, in fact, I had a conversation earlier today about the AI in manufacturing conference that's going to take place in Dallas later this year.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. That's mind boggling what's going to happen when we really see that start to happen.
I know.
Start to
Well,
run this stuff by itself.
yeah, smart
Yeah.
manufacturing, digital transformations, that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yes. So as we're moving forward today, you do talk about lean manufacturing as part of your Women in Manufacturing.
A little bit.
A little bit. So what drew you into lean manufacturing and really learning more about it?
So, way back in 1992, I did my first value stream map for an ISO certification when I was working for a manufacturing facility that produced optical and semiconductor grade silicon and germanium. And I really, really enjoyed that. I loved walking through the factory and asking all of the workers, well, what do you do now? And then what comes next? And just trying to understand end to end what happens from the point that the raw material is delivered until the finished products are shipped to the customers. And also another map for from the point that the customer makes an initial call until the delivered products go to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting. I enjoyed that a lot. And so that would probably be my first introduction to value streams and trying to understand the manufacturing processes.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, I've just kind of always been very process oriented.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer, got to know how things work, got
Mm-hmm.
to try and make improvements. And so that just was a natural fit for me.
Very cool.
I've got this cool definition pulled up. I want to read to you. So
Very
lean
good.
management optimizes processes by reducing time spent on non-value added tasks So maybe that's unnecessary operations of transport, waiting, overproduction, etc. Causes of poor quality and complications. And this method is supported by an important managerial dimension to ensure employees work in the best conditions. And I
Yes.
love this definition because it dovetails in that aspect of considering your employees and
Hmm.
not just your metrics.
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the things that I really have always enjoyed about lean manufacturing. And then when you stretch that into lean business
Yes.
and lean business strategies is the non-value added work part of it.
Yes.
And it's you're not expecting someone to work faster. You're
Hmm.
expecting to eliminate a lot of the other stuff
Hmm.
that distracts them from being able to get the value added work done.
Yes.
And I still remember to this day, I was fortunate enough. The very first introduction I had to lean manufacturing was someone that was part of Ford when they started to introduce lean manufacturing, and this person came to us and as part of an acquisition, and it was amazing because I still remember they put something on on the board and said, how much time are you actually doing value added work and how much time are you doing non value added work?
Hmm.
And you look at it, you go in most situations until they've been optimized an awful lot, the non value added work is the majority of the time. And I think in this case it was 80 or 90%. It's non value added work, and you're doing 10 or 20 value added work, the stuff that really matters. And they sat there and they said, listen, I've got 10 or 20% over here of value added work, and I've got 80 or 90% over here. All I have to do over here on the big side is take 10% out of the 80 or 90%, and I've doubled the amount of time I've added to my work,
Yeah.
and I've doubled my capacity. And it was like the light bulb went off.
Hmm.
And when you look at this in business, it translates in when you think of business process, like you said, your value
Hmm.
stream map from customer to delivery of product or even payment of product. I think there's so much for us to learn in utilizing those same processes to really transform the way we do business by allowing people to do more of what they really want to be doing
Hmm.
and less of the non-value added work.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're back there doing that first one or some subsequent things when you've done value stream mapping, what are some of the things you really learned by doing that and then working with the people through the value stream and understanding?
You can't get a room full of managers together and expect to get the answers. You have to get the people who are doing the work to participate in this activity because they're going to know where all the hidden gems are.
Yes. Yes. That's a good point. The managers they can just stay home. They can
For
stay,
that
they
day,
can,
they
they
definitely
can
can.
stay,
Yes.
they can stay home or stay in their office because the people doing the work are the ones that know.
Hmm.
And it's always interesting to me how you can have two departments working side by side. And this is in manufacturing or in business,
Hmm.
working side by side. It could be sales and then customer service, or it could be, a CNC machining and some deburr or assembly operation after it. And they don't know, the first operation doesn't know that they're causing a bunch of extra work for the second operation until you do these value stream maps.
Exactly. And sometimes it's a simple, and it can be in manufacturing, it can be in a service, it can be in, data management. It's like, if only I knew this, if only I had this information, um, then XYZ would happen, or this would be so much easier. And it's like, Well, I had that information. I just didn't know you needed it.
Hmm.
And
Yes. And when you look at some of the things, the simple format changes, or including something like you said that would help the next step in the process.
uh-huh.
Um, and when you add all those little changes up, the
Mhm.
incremental change in the what you've done with your business or your processes you're working on can be pretty significant.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you're talking with people about lean manufacturing, when you're out and about, do you think that most people are now taking the lean uh, manufacturing and moving it into their business processes, or there's still a tremendous opportunity to look at their businesses that way?
I think that there's still, I think that there is an attempt, but there's still a long way to go. And I think that most people still think that lean is only for manufacturing. And I don't think that's the case
No.
because there's so much that we can do, even if you're a service provider like Thurman Co. We're a
Hmm.
service provider. We can still apply lean principles in our day to day work.
Hmm.
Um, One of the first things that comes to mind for me is an electronic 5S. So if you're going to organize, and this is a simple example, but you're going to organize your archives of your documents.
Hmm.
Let's say you've got
Great example.
processes or you've got customer information, anything at all. First of all, I would never save it on my hard drive. I always would save it to the cloud because my hard drive can fail,
Hmm.
or I may need to share that information with a teammate who is remotely located. So I want to have it on the cloud, and
Hmm.
I want to have it um, I want to have an agreement among the team of how we're going to archive our documents. So
Yes.
whatever that is, whatever that looks like, but we'd have, some sort of file structure. And then something as simple as individual document naming convention.
Yes.
So, because the most simple thing that we're trying to do is make those files, those documents, locatable.
Hmm.
So if we're not following an agreed upon convention for naming these documents, how am I ever going to locate them?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's say that you and I are in business together and you go on a fishing trip for a week and you you and I didn't agree on how to name and archive our documents. And while you're fishing, the customer needs something, I can't find your files.
Hmm.
That customer is going to be very disappointed.
Yeah. That they've got to wait, which they shouldn't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if we have done a 5S and we're and
Yep.
the last one is sustain, if we are sustaining, then then I will be able to easily locate the document you prepared for this customer and satisfy their needs.
Yep. Yep. And that is an awesome example of two things. One is it's not just physical. All this, the organization is a lot of this, and especially in business. And Karen's from Texas as well. But she says, what do you think the cause of the disconnect between lean manufacturing and applying lean principles in business? What do you
Mm.
think about that?
What do you think? Can you bring the question up again,
Yeah, I
please?
will. I will. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
thank
good
you.
one.
The disconnect. I think that probably it's a couple of different things. Number one is understanding what the principles actually are. And the
Hmm.
second one is um, adoption,
Yeah.
adoption of those principles for
Yeah.
the um, the specific application of
Yeah.
whichever principle it is,
Yeah. I think,
because it
yeah,
doesn't
because
have to be hard,
no.
but it can take a while,
Yeah.
because we all are averse to change.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that too, and to answer Karen's questions a little bit differently as well, is people think that lean manufacturing is for them out there in the
Oh,
plant.
yes, that's
They think
also
it's for them out there in the plant, and then you go, wow, it would work in all the areas of the business. Well, that's for them out there because they're doing, all the spaghetti mapping and value stream and all this stuff, and we're 5Sing, and you made an incredible example of electronic 5S, which could I literally that one step alone in like in an engineering firm or someone that's using a lot of data could save thousands of hours in a year and ultimately make their companies so much more efficient. But I think and I think applying those same principles in the business setting is because of one thing you said too is we may have too many managers in the business part of it that don't want to get out of the way and let the process get better. But it's just one of those things I think that if you haven't seen it happen, you do not really understand the power of it.
hmm hmm Well, and sometimes people think that it's expensive to, oh,
Yeah.
we can't change this, or we can't adopt this lean principle because it'll be expensive. We'll have to buy new equipment. That's
Yeah.
also not necessarily true. I had a supplier in the Seattle area that adopted an andon system, which is just an indicator, red, yellow, green. What is your status at a particular station,
Hmm.
by distributing solo cups throughout their plant. And
Yes.
how cheap is that?
Yes.
But that was their solution, and
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to go and install these expensive lamps and all that. No, they
Yes.
just they just gave everybody red, yellow, green solo cups.
Yeah. And it can be very simple. And like you said, when when you're talking about the lean business process, one of the things that I always like to see when we're doing that with a client, and I talked about before we were on because we've got a healthcare client now that we're doing the value stream mapping of a patient journey from the beginning to end, and we're seeing that the the kind of things that you find out about your business, you
hmm
will probably never discover until you do a value stream map of something, either an order running through and products getting produced or services or whatever it is
hmm
coming out and until you get paid. And you will often find that there are things that are hanging you up along the way that
Yes.
are stretching that to take tremendously longer than it needs to really take. And when you
hmm
focus on those things and when you look at trying to develop competitive advantages, speed is one that has always throughout my career been something that if you can do it faster and you do it with lean principles in mind, and it doesn't matter in manufacturing or in services or anything, you by doing it with the lean approach, you're going to more than likely, because it can be without, but more than likely you're going to have very high quality,
Yes.
simple processes, and and with the standard work that goes across, you can do things oftentimes in significantly shorter lead times than others can at lower cost than others
hmm
can.
hmm
And when you combine those two things in business, this is where I think that the real opportunity is missed by people that don't adopt this and jump into it, because what would it mean to your company if you could go if your lead time was 30, 50% less than your competitors And oh, by the way, you can produce it at, the same price or a little bit less if you need to, and make more money at that.
Yes. Yes.
And your margins were better than your competitors. I mean, it really puts you into a situation where everyone else is going to be trying to catch up.
I completely agree. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you've been helping people with lean manufacturing and talking about it, what are some of the examples of the red, yellow, green solo cup is cool. I wrote that down because that's so cool. What other cool things have you seen when you've been talking to people and helping them with this?
Another good example, I think, would be identifying your what are your key metrics.
Yeah.
What's because you're going to improve what you measure, and so you're going to identify what's really important to your business. And if you don't know, for example, whether your inventory is turning 2 or 3 times a year, or more, or
Mm-hmm.
not at all,
Not at all. Yeah. Oh man.
then how are you going to run your business?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
or are you overproducing something? And that can go for manufacturing or for a service industry too.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if, again, from the service side, if I'm producing all of this content, maybe emails or reports or presentations that nobody cares about, that's waste. And I
Mm-hmm.
can stop it right now and do something more productive.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's over processing. So if in the manufacturing environment, am I over inspecting? Am I spending a lot of time over inspecting and
Mm-hmm.
over processing my product? And in the service environment, am I passing this document around for review and approval and review and approval and review and approval way too much?
Oh,
Does
that
it
hurts me.
really need to be, sent up to the third vice president of whatchamacallit before it gets released?
Yeah.
Or can
No
my
doubt.
manager just say, yeah, that looks pretty good, just send it
Yeah.
out?
Yes. Yes. Oh, you just hit a couple of them there. Oh my goodness. That the over processing, yes. Such a poignant example right there of a document that takes 47 signatures for it to be approved when one could do, or you need input from 72 people, and listen, when 71 of them don't care, it really doesn't need 72 people.
Yes.
Such good stuff here. But Karen has a couple of other great questions here, so we're
Oh,
going to share those. It is said that businesses are missing opportunities for customer self-service that would improve customer experience and improve efficiency. How would you sell this idea to an organization that wants to ensure customers get personalized service and are hesitant to make the transaction? Ooh.
okay. Yeah. Self-service. I like the idea of having a customer portal and
Mm-hmm.
letting customers be able to have that interaction. So if there's something where customers can get access to frequently asked questions, um, resources like some sort of manuals, documents,
Yep.
reports, things like that, where they can get access to solve their own problems. They don't want to be waiting around for somebody to call them back either.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that.
Yeah.
Um, if there are other examples of that type of self-service, um, I'm not thinking of them immediately, but I'm sure there are other examples.
Well, it's simple. Like those are great examples. And if you could
Mhm.
say like the ordering of replacement product, if you can use an
Mhm.
e-commerce solution for ordering replacement product, but you made an awesome point because some people want to do that, some people do want to talk to a customer service person. So I think for these companies that are hesitant to move that way, it's like it's not all of one or the other. It's not
Yes.
100% or 100%. It's like we give both options because honestly, the people that buy are a wide variety of people. Some will want that, some will need that kind of immediate,
Hmm.
and some won't care. They want to talk to somebody or do it. But I think it's really about giving that personalized service to the individual rather than saying, well, our customers and generalizing like to do it
Hmm.
this way. They got all kinds of varied ways that they want to do it, and give them the option that suits them, because truly that's what leading edge companies are doing. They don't care. How do you want to order? You want to order on Amazon? You want to order from our website? You want to order from Walmart? You want to order from, uh, you
Hmm.
know, our affiliates? Do you want to buy replacement parts at one of our distributors because it's down the street from you? You want to support them, or you want to buy from us online? It's all these ways that people are doing this, and the same thing with service and how they do it. I just think that getting people to realize that their customers are not all the same, and if you give them more options, you'll probably see people using them.
That is excellent. Excellent suggestions.
Yeah. And then she had one final question. How would a new or small company establish what metrics are or should be?
Awesome. Awesome question. So I think that um, number one, is it a metric that could be defined in a specification, like an engineering specification? Second thing is there an industry um, standard?
Yeah.
So if you know, for example, like on time delivery, um, is there an industry standard for that? Or does does you does your company have a goal to
Mm-hmm.
set for whatever this metric is? So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's how many calls are being processed per minute in the call center, or standard wait time to have that call answered, or how many orders for part number XYZ123
Mm-hmm.
are being taken each month. Whatever
Yeah.
that metric is, um, there are some general rules of thumb
Yeah.
that you can probably find. If
Yes.
not, there are probably some industry associations that you can look to try and find them.
Yeah. And then the one thing I'll tell you, my golden trio of metrics that I always try to, any client that we work with, they're gonna know. They're gonna know their top line sales. They're gonna
Yep.
know their gross margin.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care about what the net income is or anything like that on metrics, because most people in the business don't have any control over that fixed part, what we spend in administrative costs and rent and all that other stuff, right? So we just make sure that our revenue minus the cost to produce it, we know what that gross margin is, because that's what people that are going to be looking at this can actually do. And I know this is
Mm-hmm.
scary to some business owners, founders,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't like to share that. Trust me, if you educate people on the fact that it costs you $1 million a month in fixed costs to run it, when they see $250,000 a month, or $300,000 or $400,000 a week, or whatever the day or whatever you're doing, they will not freak out over how much money it is. They'll understand that this is, you're running a business. You have to make a return on your investment, and educating people in your company, you will be able to share the numbers. But gross margin, revenue and gross margin are the first two that we always do, because
Mm-hmm.
they are so important for your business long term.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not generating enough money, you won't be there around the long term.
Well, and that just makes me realize that different people in different parts of the company are going to be tied in to different metrics.
Yes. And that is why the next ones, and some of them that you were talking about, are very applicable. And we see these things in e-commerce. It could be the pick to pack time. How long does it take me to get the item off the shelf and the order out the door? And that's a huge thing in e-commerce. It's like, how much do you do that? Or you look at tack times, even when you look at beginning of order start to end of order start, you might say that, hey, we want every order from the time we touch it until the time it's ready to ship. How many hours? That could be something from an operational perspective. But I'm trying to not say but so much because I don't want to negate what before. And there's so many other things that you can do. We need to realize that if you get more than about 4 or 5, it's too many. So you always have to keep going. Is that really going to help us? Is it really going to help us? Or are one of these other ones going to give us what we want instead?
That's why they're key performance indicators.
Yes. There we go. And I just want to say, Ira's here. Thanks for stopping in today, Ira.
Hi, Ira.
So, Karen, thanks for the kind words on that. I mean, it's so much fun having the great questions, and Angela just being here to talk about this. But Angela, we've gone 51 minutes now, and I feel like we could go. I know. It's like okay, we're just getting started, but we're not. Thank you so much. Now, thank you so much for being here, because I knew this was going to be an awesome conversation. I knew it was going to be great. Just hearing you talk about your experience about women in manufacturing. And if anyone wants to know, you are the membership director
and treasurer.
For Women in Manufacturing, the Texas chapter, which you've got over 1,000 members. And listen, reach out to Angela for that if you're interested in that. But how can people get a hold of you, Angela?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, or they can email me at angela@thurmanco.com.
Awesome. Angela, it was a pleasure. As always.
My pleasure as well, Damon. Thank you so much.
So much fun having you on. I mean, I knew I was excited about this. I was excited to talk with you about this because I knew you'd be an awesome guest, and you have not disappointed at all, in the least, ever.
Oh, thank you. If you ever want to talk about lean some more, just let me know.
We might. I just thank you so much. And I want to thank Karen for being here, asking awesome questions. Ira dropping in. And yes, Karen again. She said, big shout out to Wimbers in Texas, nationwide. And thanks so much. Well, hang out for just a minute, Angela. We're going to shut this down and we'll talk for a moment. Thanks everyone for being here today.
Bye-bye.